In recent years, competitive Melee has witnessed the rise of custom GameCube controller motherboards. Two vendors in particular, Goomwave and Phob, have successfully distributed their products far and wide throughout the scene. While these products have provided enjoyment for many players, they've also raised legality concerns. This is because the Melee community doesn't have a firm governing body when it comes to controllers, and so third-party vendors have a responsibility to uphold. Having administered the box's software, I figured I'd make a video which gives my thoughts on the two alternative GameCube controller motherboard brands. This will help people understand what's beneficial about these motherboards, as well as where they may be violating competitive integrity. As a disclaimer, there are no business interests influencing the opinions given in this video. With that being said, please don't forget to like and subscribe before we jump into the video. The first chapter of this video will go over the implications of the Phob's Hall effect sticks. The Phob is a revolutionary motherboard because it replaces the default motherboard's cheap potentiometers with magnetic sensors. The main benefit this comes with is that the analog stick and C-Stick's inputs will be responsive. Both sticks will also be immune to P.O.D.E, which is an aspect of GameCube controllers that quite frankly shouldn't exist. P.O.D.E causes these sticks to behave in wacky ways as it accumulates over time. For example, P.O.D.E can cause your stick to skip quite a few values before displaying the reading that it should. This was notable back during the vanilla Melee days, as P.O.D.E could be used to circumvent the one-frame dashback window through dysfunctional analog stick readings. However, P.O.D.E generally isn't needed for anything once Melee's faulty mechanics are fixed on a software level. My verdict for the Phob's Hall effect sticks is that they're excellent and should be the standard. I recommend using a Phob for this feature alone. The next feature I'll be going over is P.O.D.E Calibration. P.O.D.E Calibration is a feature that's available on both the Goomwave and Phob. What this feature lets you do is artificially apply P.O.D.E to your analog stick in order to make it skip values as if it had acquired the degradation naturally. While I can understand the thought process behind this feature, I have a unique take on it, which is that it shouldn't be included. I say this because adding P.O.D.E goes directly against the main benefit of the Phob's Hall effect stick, which is the fact that it's immune to P.O.D.E. Thus, my verdict is that this feature should be removed, as P.O.D.E is an arbitrary aspect of stock motherboards which shouldn't exist. While we obviously wouldn't ban stock motherboards for accumulating P.O.D.E, I disagree with providing a feature that encourages it. The third feature to go over is Firefox notch calibration. The Firefox notch calibration feature allows you to calibrate your notches back to the correct values after they inevitably degrade. This is essential because notches are expensive and can degrade into the dead zone, at which point they are unusable without this feature. Something I should mention is that I'm not fond of a side effect of this feature, which is the fact that it squishes and stretches surrounding coordinates as a result of calibration. What this means is that certain coordinates will correspond with a different range than they normally have so that the calibrated notch can work. My stance is that squishing and stretching actually shouldn't be legal, as it violates the integrity of the analog stick's coordinate plane. However, it's a necessary evil, as the calibration feature is the only way to eliminate logistical issues that notches create. Therefore, I'm in favor of giving it a pass. The fourth feature is corner notch calibration, which is available on the Phob. I posted a video on November 12th which went over advanced usages for this feature. This video showed that in quadrants 1 and 2, you have the option to calibrate for pivot up forward tilt plus up B without tap jump, and that there are even more options in quadrants 3 and 4. In quadrants 3 and 4, you can calibrate for techniques such as down forward tilt, crouch walk OS, and jab cancel. Corner notch calibration is useful because it makes it easy to notch for these techniques. My verdict is that the squishing and stretching caused by this feature is once again a necessary evil, as the option to calibrate needs to exist for GameCube controller users. The fact that this feature is Phob exclusive is another reason to go with that brand. The fifth set of features is Z Jump and 1.0 Cardinal, which are available on both the Goomwave and Phob. The reason I've grouped these mechanics together is because they fall under the list of mechanics that I'm in favor of software standardizing for everybody. There are 11 fixed mechanics on the 1.03 mod that I recommend. Something to know is that on UCF, which is the current standard, you can access 4.5 of these fixed mechanics if you're using a Goomwave or Phob. From there, the way I see it is that 1.03 gives an increased shield drop range, fixes 4 more mechanics that are significant, and fixes 2 mechanics that are less significant. As for my verdict regarding Z Jump and 1.0 Cardinal being controller side, this is fine because their implementation matches what should be standardized anyway. The sixth feature is the Goomwave's dash out of crouch toggle. This is one of the features on the Goomwave that's raised legality concerns for many people, and it's easy to see why. The way the Goomwave's dash out of crouch toggle behaves is by causing your analog stick to skip a considerable distance after leaving the crouch area. This compensates for the fact that a 2-frame window isn't sufficient for dash out of crouch's travel route. However, this method of fixing dash out of crouch is unclean compared to standardizing a 3-frame window. The Goomwave's method of skipping coordinates not only creates all sorts of implications in terms of modifying the analog stick disingenuously, but it can also conflict with other areas of the game. Therefore, my stance is that any mod which alters the analog stick's behavior in these types of ways should be banned. The Goomwave's ledge dash mods fall under this category as well, but I won't be covering them in this video since they're more complicated. The next controversial Goomwave feature is the option to modify up-tilt's range. The Goomwave allows you to turn some of the Y-axis dead zone into extra up-tilt range, which is almost strictly beneficial. Something worth noting is that there are similarities between this feature and the squishing and stretching aspects of the calibration features from earlier on. I say this because swishing and stretching does cause the coordinate plane to deviate from the norm in ways that it shouldn't. However, switching and stretching is a necessary evil, whereas the Goomwave's up-tilt mod isn't. My stance is that this mod, as well as any mod that falls under this category, shouldn't be legal. The last feature I'll be going over is the P.O.D.e's dedicated analog L and R button feature. This feature, which allows you to replace your L or R trigger with a dedicated analog button, is similar to the two analog buttons at the top right of the box. However, it's worth noting that the P.O.D.e is currently violating the box's legal parameters. On the scale of analog 43 through 140, the box uses the value of 49 for light shield and 94 for mid shield. The P.O.D.e is in line with the box in terms of banning the values of 43 through 48. However, the P.O.D.e does let you set your button to 95 through 140, which exceeds the box's parameters. An example of how this can be exploited is by using an analog 140 button to produce digital-sized shields that can't power shield. This is advantageous because power shields can cause unwanted pushback. While it's probably a bad idea to actually use this feature since it causes you to completely lose your digital L or R button, I still disagree with the fact that it can be used to exceed the box's parameters, as parity between all controllers should be the goal. Therefore, I believe that this is a ban-worthy feature on the P.O.D.e that's being overlooked. In closing, the P.O.D.e is the better product overall due to its Hall effect sticks and corner notch calibration feature. I would go as far as to say that the Goomwave's alterations to normal analog stick behavior make it a ban-worthy controller in its current form. These alterations should be limited to the squishing and stretching that occur as a result of notch calibration, as those are unavoidable. The P.O.D.e isn't without criticism, however. If the P.O.D.e were to take more of an Apple approach by limiting customization, then P.O.D.E calibration would be scrapped, as it's an unnecessary feature. The P.O.D.e's dedicated analog L and R button feature should also be changed to abide by box parameters, as we should look to create parity between controller types. With that being said, thanks for tuning into the video. Hopefully this was helpful.